Hello and welcome to Diecast Diaries. I'm Dan. Now in my last video I unboxed some Johnny Lightning military diecast, and I must admit it was quite enjoyable getting some models out of the packaging, especially as in the case of those they'd been in the packaging for quite some time. Don't know why I hadn't got around to opening them, but there we go. So I thought it'd be quite interesting to kind of get some more stuff unboxed. It's something I've been wanting to do for a while. I have to say, I'm not one of those collectors who absolutely relishes destroying packaging just to get things out. I do try and keep the boxes and that to my models as much as possible. However, I am aware that these were meant to be removed, so I don't really have any qualms about kind of getting the packaging open to get these things out, especially in the case of things like Matchbox, like we've got here tonight. So appreciate this is probably a little bit different to the last few videos I've done. However, last year I did several videos where I unboxed a load of Matchbox stuff. Matchbox is where my interest in diecast sort of first started from when I was little, so all throughout the 80s and the 90s. Matchbox cars and others were always my favourite toy. And it's something that I've really got back into in the last couple of years, sort of not only collecting the older ones from, as I say, around the sort of 80s and 90s, but also a lot of the newer stuff as well. There's some really kind of nice ones that Matchbox are bringing out now. Still the same emphasis on the same sorts of vehicles that I have covered in my channel. So there's, as you can see here, virtually all the vehicles here tonight are emergency type vehicles or American type vehicles, or in a lot of cases, both. So there's still, it's not like I'm trying to sort of set out to collect every single Matchbox model ever made. That would be ridiculous, especially with all the other models that I've got as well. So, but yeah, as I say, I've really got back into collecting these. And although a couple of the 5 packs I've got here tonight do actually date from the late 90s, I've not had them that long. The most I've had any of these is maybe a year or so. Not opened them because it was with a view to eventually getting my channel started, and it was something I fancied doing on that. So yeah, so I thought tonight I'd go through these 5 packs. We'll get them all open, have a look at the models inside, and yeah, as I say, they've been sat around waiting for this. So I thought it was time to get them open. I'm actually going to start with a 3 pack, which is this one. So this is one that was from 2018. Matchbox originally released these as part of a 5 pack, and a feature of these 5 packs is that one of the vehicles was chosen as the card art. You can see in this case it's actually a blue Humvee. You can see there it is on the back. That was obviously one of the other vehicles that was part of the 5 pack. So it's a bit strange that they kind of reduced it down to 3, but the card art features a vehicle that's no longer in it. I have actually managed to pick up the Humvee in question separately. So there it is. Quite an unusual sort of blue scheme with like what I guess is an American star on the side. This is the later casting of the Humvee where they'd removed the missile launcher off the top, and it also no longer has the opening hatch at the back. That's the Humvee from this set. The other thing that came in this set originally was the Matchbox just called it the Mission Helicopter. I've got a couple of examples of the Mission Helicopter in a couple of the 5 packs tonight. There's another one there. It's not a real helicopter. It's one of Matchbox's own kind of inventions. It's in a similar colour scheme to the Humvee. It's not one I'm as bothered about. But yeah, this was a military sort of set that just came up on eBay. I picked it up very cheaply. So we'll just get it open. It's a bit of a odd mix of vehicles in that one of them is a Willys Jeep. It's obviously World War II. So let's get rid of that. And get the vehicles out and have a look at them. So here's the Willys Jeep. Matchbox have done sort of quite a few of these. It's quite a nice casting, I have to say. Wheels are probably a little bit oversized. Obviously, you can see the windscreen is entirely plastic, and it's a shame that the sort of windscreen frame isn't painted at all. The spare wheel on this one kind of looks a bit garish. Kind of looks a bit jarring, really, with it kind of the way it sort of sticks out. It's obviously just, I'm guessing it's because it's part of the interior. Looks the same colour as the seats there. Done in this case in kind of unusual military police colours, but it is just kind of a black sort of colour. But it's quite nicely done. So as I say, yeah, they've done quite a few of these Willys Jeeps. Some more recent casting from Matchbox. That's the Willys Jeep. And then we've got, I think this is an MBX original, as they call it, a vehicle that's Matchbox's own design. So it's called the Sahara Sweeper. But it's very reminiscent of the sort of fast attack vehicles that a lot of special forces use. I've seen pictures of very similar vehicles to this used by like the US Army Rangers and I think Navy SEALs in Desert Storm. Perfect vehicle for cruising across the sort of desert environment. I think they're actually only two-wheel drive, but I think they don't really need to be. They're very light. They don't need to be all-wheel drive. They're very lightweight. Usually armed with like a 50 caliber or a grenade launcher on the top. Perfect sort of vehicle for sort of scouting behind enemy lines. Obviously air droppable and everything. It's got this sort of unusual sort of the SAR on it, same as the Humvee. So that's the Sahara Sweeper. And then the last one is a real vehicle. It's the International MXT, I think it is. It doesn't actually say on the bottom, but that's what it is. So it is a real vehicle. And this is kind of part of the new generation of military vehicles that are kind of in service now. Vehicles that have kind of really been brought in to replace the Humvee. Obviously, the recent wars in Afghanistan and Iraq kind of showed the Humvee to be quite vulnerable to IEDs and things like that. And there's a whole generation of new vehicles coming that are much better protected. Occupants much more able to withstand roadside bombs and the like. So this is a real vehicle. In a fictional scheme, it does actually say MBX on the side, so it makes it look like it is a kind of a Matchbox original, but it is a real vehicle. So that's the International MXT. So I thought I'd just start off by looking at that military 3-pack, although as I say, I do at least have the Humvee from it as well. Regarding the other 5-packs, I thought I'd start with the most recent one and then go through to the oldest ones. I say those couple that date from the late 90s. So this one here, I think this is actually only from last year, 2024. This one would have come out. This is the Coffee Cruisers 5. Now, I'm not really familiar with the Coffee Cruisers thing. I'll just take it off camera and get it open. Obviously, this is the 5th 5-pack that Matchbox have done under that name. I'm not sure if it relates to anything, if it's like a real thing or not. It tends to just be a selection of mostly American vehicles, I think. And you can see this is one set I've got that features non-emergency vehicles. The first one I've got here is a very nice Dodge Challenger, a lovely sort of blue colour. The more modern American cars I'm not as interested in as the sort of older ones from like the sort of 60s, 70s, 80s. But the Challenger's quite nice in that it's one of these current crop of cars that's got a very sort of retro styling. It sort of clearly harks back to the original from the 60s. First one of these I've actually got from Matchbox. That's a particularly nice one. The wheels really suit this one as well. That's the Dodge Challenger. And then we've got a very nice Ford Mustang Fastback. Does it say what it is underneath? The year 65 Mustang GT. There we go. It looks kind of very similar with the dark green to the one used in Bullet in the sort of infamous really long car chase through San Francisco, where it's chasing or being chased by, I can never remember which way around it is, the black Dodge Charger. That's a very nice casting. Again, wheels really suit it. That's a 65 Mustang GT. Then we have probably my least favourite vehicle from this. Matchbox it's a 1932 Ford Coupe Model B. So again, it will be a real vehicle. It's one of the cars that's obviously quite often turned into a hot rod. And this is in the Moon Eyes scheme. There's a few vehicles I've seen in this scheme, both from Matchbox and from Hot Wheels. So I'm guessing it is a real racing team or such like. It's quite nice. It's certainly quite eye-catching. One thing with 5-packs is it's kind of rare to get 5 vehicles that you actually all like. Usually there might be 2, maybe 3 vehicles that are kind of decent or the kind of things that you like in the 5-pack. And then you get a couple of filler vehicles, really. Luckily, with the vast majority of these, with a couple of exceptions, most of these vehicles are actually all pretty decent, which is good. But yeah, as I say, it is something that you kind of run the risk of. It's worse with things like 8, 9 or 10 packs. There's definitely some filler with those. But yeah, so that's a 1932 Ford Coupe hot rod. And then we have the Ford F100 panel van. It's the 1955 Ford F100 panel van. Rock and roll one-man show, rockabilly doo-wop and strolls, is that? And that's actually got the Coffee Cruisers logo on the door. So I've seen in the other 5-packs they've done that are Coffee Cruisers, at least one of the vehicles will have this kind of logo on the door. So as I say, I'm guessing it is a real kind of thing. I don't know what it is, a car club or something like that. But it's quite nice. I've got a few of these F100s. It's a nice casting. So that's the Ford F100 panel van. And then probably the main one I bought the 5-pack for, and it's the 1963 Cadillac ambulance. Very eye-catching vehicle, kind of similar to the Ghostbusters ambulance. In fact, it's just a later version of it. The Ghostbusters was a 1959 one. This is, let's say, a 63. So it's a very similar vehicle, still a Cadillac. And then a very eye-catching scheme, sort of with the orange with the white stripe, Medivac ambulance. So yeah, that's a particularly nice one. So I'd say that's probably the closest one of the 5-packs where there was less vehicles in it than a kind of was. There was only kind of one or two that I was really interested in. But to be fair, the Dodge Challenger and the Mustang, even the Hot Rod, oops, they're not bad really. But yeah, so that's the Cadillac ambulance. And the next one, I must admit, I've been looking forward to getting this one open. So this is one that was brought out in 2023 for the 70th anniversary. It's MBX City Drivers 2. I really like this one because for a start, there's 4 vehicles in it, are 4 of my current favourite castings. And the last one is, as I mentioned before, the Mission helicopter. This 5-pack actually harks back to one from the sort of mid-90s, with the vehicles being in very similar schemes. And 3 of the vehicles from the 5-pack actually being the same castings. So the helicopter, the Chevy Blazer, and the GMC Wrecker have all previously appeared in very similar colour schemes in an earlier 5-pack, as I say, from about the mid-90s. The only one with this one is they've changed the police car. It was the Ford LTD, we've got an example of there. Now they've changed it to the 94 Caprice. And the fire engine that you got was originally this 6-wheel Oshkosh one. And now they've changed it to the Pierce Dash. So we'll get these out. So this is the Mission Chopper. This is a casting that Matchbox have done for a while. Tail does extend out, so when it just folds into it, can fit in the pockets nicely. It used to have longer rotor blades. They've obviously been reduced at some point. I don't know why, because it still fits in the pocket with, I think it used to have folding ones. They look a bit weird, they look a bit too short really, but at least the tail boom still folds out. I'm not overly bothered by any of the sort of Matchbox helicopters. There's a few kind of ones he did as part of the normal Superpass range. These are obviously smaller than Skybusters. This is probably the best of the lot, although they're all, as I say, fictional designs. I think this is actually based on the helicopter out of the Blue Thunder TV series from the 1980s, kind of a sort of similar thing to Airwolf, that kind of thing. So, yeah, so that's the Mission Chopper. Just fold the tail back in, put it over there. As I say, the other 4 from this are castings I really like, and are all castings I'm trying to get as many of them as possible. So this is the 94 Chevy Caprice police car. And you can see it's a very similar colour scheme to, as I say, this 5-pack that was released back in the sort of mid-90s. I think the main difference with those was where these are kind of silver coloured, the other ones were white, but they still had the sort of like orange and kind of day glow yellow markings, and these all seem to say sort of Metro on them. You see there, it's got the 70th anniversary logo. That's the Chevy Caprice police car. Then we have a casting that's been around for quite some time. It's the Chevy Blazer. So this, as I say, was one that did feature in the original version of this 5-pack. The casting has been altered over the years. They changed the light bar, and it doesn't come with an aerial anymore. It doesn't even come with the attachment where the aerial went. It was just on the corner there. There is an earlier version of the Blazer there, which we'll get to shortly. So that's the Chevy Blazer from the City Drivers 2. Very smart scheme. Then we come to what is probably my all-time favourite Matchbox casting. It's the GMC Wrecker. I have to say, this must be one of Matchbox's most long-lived castings. The original one dates from 1987, and obviously still going strong now. Well, this dates from 2023. I think this is the latest release of it. Still a licensed vehicle, as you can see. You've got GMC on the front there. Thankfully, it's not changed a huge amount from the original. This jib is now fixed in place and the hook's fixed, and the chassis and front is plastic, but the rest of it's all metal. But yeah, it's long been one of my absolute favourites, if not my outright favourite Matchbox casting. So it's nice to get kind of a new example of that. Put that over there. And then the last one, as I say, this replaces the Oshkosh from the original version of this set. This is it's known as either a Pierce Dash or it says Pierce Arrow XT fire engine on the side, but some of them are marked up as Pierce Dash. So it's a real fire engine. Pierce is an American fire engine manufacturer. Another casting that it's a more recent one from Matchbox, but another one I'm trying to collect as many of these as possible. So yeah, nice to get one in that scheme. So that's a particularly nice 5-pack, and one that, as I say, I was particularly kind of looking forward to getting open. Then we have this one here, MBX Service. This is from 2023 as well. Now, these are all vehicles marked up as El Segundo. Now, as far as I'm aware, El Segundo is a real place. I believe it's in California. And I think it's where Matchbox's US headquarters is, or something like that. Excuse me a second. Apologies for the noise. Oh, there we go. There we go. Now, this is another 5-pack where all 5 of the vehicles, I think, in this are sort of really decent. So the first one is the 2016 Ford Police Interceptor Utility. I've mentioned when I was doing my other Matchbox unboxing videos, there was a few of these that I'd got to unbox in obviously various different schemes. It's the trend of modern sort of police forces, especially in the States, the police departments, the kind of more and more using SUVs as opposed to kind of normal sort of saloons and sedans like they used before. I don't mind them. I prefer normal police cars, but yeah, this I've got quite a few of these now. This is quite a nice scheme. It just says El Segundo Police on the side, and it's got the American flag there. Always thought the tow bar on this one is particularly oversized, but the rest of it's a nice one. So that's the Ford Interceptor Utility. Then we have the International TerraStar ambulance. And you see it says El Segundo on the side there on the white. It doesn't show up too easily on the camera, but it does say it on there. Fire and EMS does actually have the Matchbox logo on these, which I do think is kind of a bit odd sometimes when they do that, because they make it look like it's a real department or such, but then they put the Matchbox logo on, which makes it look obviously kind of made up again, which is a bit strange. But yeah, it's a nice one. Got a few of these. There aren't sort of too many versions of this out yet. So as I say, it just says International Ambulance under here, but that's what it is, International Work Star. So that's that. Unusual to see an ambulance in red as well, which is quite nice, quite different. Then we have, I think this is the 3rd version of this casting, so it's the 2010 Ford F-150 animal control truck. This one I particularly like. The first 2 versions, there's a white one that's very similar to this, and there's a yellow version, but they're just kind of like an animal control, like I suppose like the council, if you like, the equivalent of in the state. Whereas this one's actually marked up as a police vehicle. This is the El Segundo Police Animal Control Division. Quite an unusual vehicle for Matchbox to do casting of, but obviously it will be a real vehicle. That's the Ford F-150 animal control truck. Then we've got the Dodge Ram police pickup. It's a 2015 Ram. Really nice scheme, this one. Again, you've got El Segundo Police on the side, and then it's trying to see what it says. It's struggling to kind of focus. Working together with our community. Something. Quite small. But yeah, that's a nice one. Particularly like the scheme on this one. I've got a couple of others of these. There's a fire department one I've got, and then there's one that actually came in a Texas Highway Patrol related 5-pack, but it's just kind of plain silver all over, but it still has a light bar on the roof. But that's a particularly nice one. That's the Dodge Ram police pickup. And then the last one. This is a vehicle. It's a Ford Transit News van. This one does have a bit of a moving part, if you can call it that, which is just the satellite dish that folds up. Ford Transit's a vehicle that's actually becoming more and more common in the States now. For some reason, it's only sort of recently, although Ford are an American company, it only seems to be relatively recently that they've started selling them over there. I do find it a little bit strange for me, the Ford Transit's such a British vehicle, or certainly such a European vehicle, that seeing them in the States, well, as I say, one thing I've always liked about American cars is the fact that they were just so distinctive, American vehicles in general, so distinctive compared to anything over here. So now that you're starting to see things like Ford Transits, even Transit Connect over in the States, it's a bit like, And, obviously it makes sense for them to be sold over there, but yeah, it doesn't look like a proper American vehicle to me. But it's a nice casting. Obviously, this is harks back to the Mercedes TV truck that Matchbox did back in the 80s. So we've got El Segundo, local news. It does say MBX TV, public service, streaming live, clear, complete coverage. I've got a couple of others of these. They've done this sort of singly in sort of different schemes as well. So that's the Ford Transit News van. So that's the MBX service one. So all the vehicles from El Segundo. And then kind of similar, another location that Matchbox have done numerous vehicles from is Boone County. I can only guess again that it is a real location and that vehicles do have this sort of scheme, but they've done quite a number of vehicles, not just this 5-pack, but a number of single vehicles as well, all in various Boone County sort of markings. Note the unfortunate spelling mistake, obviously should be MBX Rescue. This 5-pack is from 2022. And again, it's another one that's all 5 of the vehicles I think are sort of really decent in it. One of them is actually the last sort of one. All of the vehicles were real vehicles; they're all licensed ones that Matchbox produce. This one looks like they are, but one of the vehicles is actually a Matchbox original. So we have another version of the Dodge Ram in a nice sort of Boone County Sheriff markings. Call 911, Emergency Management Agency. So it's nice to get one that's in a completely different sort of colour scheme to the black and white one we just looked at. Then we've got the Ford F550 Super Duty. It's kind of like an off-road sort of fire truck. Boone County Fire District on the side. Another casting I kind of really like. Trying to sort of get quite a few of. All plastic back on this one, but the cab's all die-cast. That's the Ford F550. Then we have another 2016 Ford Interceptor Utility. Just says Boone County Sheriff on the side. Again, as I say, oversized tow bar. We've got a nice push bar on the front. Then another international ambulance, Boone County Fire District Emergency Medical Services, Mass Casualty Unit. That's quite a smart one. In a more traditional sort of ambulance style markings, I would have said. Pop that at the back. Then the last one, this is the one that's actually not a real vehicle, although really it looks so much like one, you'd be forgiven for thinking it was. Matchbox just called it the Hazard Squad. It's ended up being one of my favourites, certainly of the more recent castings from Matchbox, and it's one that I've been trying to get as many of as possible. A lot of the Matchbox original designs, some of them leave a lot to be desired, it has to be said, but there are a few that really genuinely look like real vehicles, and this is one of them. And it just says Boone County Fire District. Very eye-catching markings and kind of unusual to get, obviously, what's a fire engine type vehicle in yellow. It looks nice with the blue stripe down the side. So that's the MBX Rescue 5-pack. This next one is probably the other one where I'm not so bothered about all of the vehicles in it. So it's MBX Marine Rescue. Main reason I wanted it was for the Chevy Caprice and another version of the Hazard Squad. But to be fair, the other ones in it, they're not terrible. So we'll get this one out. You can see the featured vehicle on this one is the June buggy. There it is on the back. This set is from 2021. So 3 of the vehicles in this one are unlicensed, sort of Matchbox's originals. First of those is the buggy. Matchbox just call it Baja Bandit. It's not bad. It sort of looks plausible as a real vehicle. It just looks like a typical sort of dune buggy used on like a Volkswagen Beetle chassis kind of thing. MBX Marine Park on the bonnet. Looks quite nice. Got that there. Then, as I say, one of the 2 main vehicles I got the 5-pack for, which is the Chevy Caprice. Segundo Beach Marine Life Rescue, although it does say Matchbox on the door, so, and obviously MBX Marine Park. So I don't think these can be kind of real liveries at all, but it's nice to get another example of the Caprice. Whether a Marine Park would need its own kind of police car, I'm not sure, but I like it. Then the other reason I got this set was another version of the Hazard Squad, Hazmat Beach and Spill Unit, MBX Marine Park again. So quite an unusual sort of idea to sort of do it in like a sort of hazardous materials unit, and certainly sort of quite a different colour scheme to the others, but quite a nice one. So that's another version of the Hazard Squad. And then we have the other licensed vehicle, so it's a Nissan Xterra, habitat support, it says. Again, it's got Matchbox on it there, and again, of course, MBX Marine Park. It's quite nice. It's possibly not a vehicle I would have picked singly. It's a pity about that the pillar's quite visible on that one. But the blue wheels are quite a nice touch. You've got a roof rack on the top with various bits in, although that wheel is way too small for the vehicle. That's the Nissan Xterra, but yeah, that's okay. And then probably for a lot of people, this would be the least favourite vehicle or model, casting, whatever, of the whole lot. But I have to say, I actually quite like it. So it's just called Deep Diver. So it's your classic kind of underwater sort of deep water submersible for sort of ocean exploration. Big propeller on the back, doesn't spin or anything like that. Actually, it looks like it's quite plasticky, but there is actually quite a bit of metal content in this. And surprisingly, the sort of pincers on the front are all metal as well. Big sort of bubble to see out of there. So yeah, it is kind of the most kind of toy-like and probably the one that looks the most like it's made up. But I quite like that. I don't mind that at all. So that's the Deep Diver. Then this is another set where really there was only a couple of vehicles I was really interested in the set. This has got another Hazard Squad, another of the Pierce Dash or Pierce Arrow fire engines. But out of the other three, again, there are a couple that aren't great, but it could have been worse. I don't think this one has a name on it as such. Actually, it's exclusively for Asda at the top there. This one is dates from 2017. This one would have been released, and you can see they've chosen the sort of 6x6 ATV as the card art. This is one I have already had open, so it should be a bit easier just to get out. So this one was actually sort of quite a nice one. I was actually quite pleased with this. So it's a 1939 Chevy van, county fire hazmat and cleanup. MBX County again on the door, so I don't think it's a real livery, but it's quite a nice one. That it's not a commonly seen casting. This I don't think, so it's quite nice. It's the only example I've got of one, but yeah, it's quite an eye-catching one. Pop that there. Then we've got possibly my least favourite vehicle. It's obviously another sort of MBX original, as they call them, the Matchbox's own design. I think just call it the Badlander. Yeah, so it's just a kind of generic four-wheel drive pickup truck. It's got like a sort of, it says Badlander on the side, emergency response vehicle radio dispatch. It's got like a kind of gas mask or respirator on the side. I have actually got a Hazard Squad in this colour scheme, so it is quite nice that I've got another vehicle that goes with it, and both of them have got this kind of weird red glass. So that's the Badlander. And then we've got, as I say, the vehicle that features on the card art, Trail Tracker, that's what's called it. It looks quite plausible. It is a made-up vehicle, but there are sort of similar vehicles to this in real life. It just says bio waste on the side. It's got various bits and bobs in the back there. It's not bad. That's the Trail Tracker. And then, as I say, the two vehicles I actually got the set for. Now, this one's kind of weird. It just says paranormal research on the side. I think all the other vehicles seem to be kind of like a hazardous materials, biohazard type thing, bio waste, clear up type vehicles. So it kind of seems odd that they decided to put this one as a paranormal research vehicle. Obviously, kind of like an X-Fire engine that's been bought up, as I say, similar to the Ghostbusters ambulance that I referred to earlier. An ex-emergency vehicle bought up by some paranormal investigators, but a bit of an odd one, but it's kind of nice to get it in this quite an eye-catching colour scheme, the green, black with the yellow stripes. So, yeah, see this one, they actually call it the Pierce Dash, but it's the same casting as the other one. That's a nice one. And then another version of the Hazard Squad. Got the sort of unusual red tint, but obviously it's to get like the red light bar there. But other than that, it's in quite a nice eye-catching scheme. Fire rescue hazmat unit with a sort of big sort of Z sort of shaped stripe down the side. So from there, they're kind of all sort of relatively recent, but the last two 5-packs, we actually sort of jump all the way back to 1998. So these actually feature some older castings that probably haven't appeared for some time. So this is obviously a police one. Now, although I got it off eBay in the UK, it was off a UK seller. You can see originally it's cost someone $4.97. Not it's like Hills. It's not a shop I've heard of. Whether it's one that's still going in the States, I don't know. But yeah, originally it's been bought from the States, so I'm guessing this might even be one that was only available in the States. There's no sort of card art as such. You can see other other 5-packs that they did at the time. One of which I think is the other one that I've got here, the fire one. So we'll get this one open as well. So again, with this one, there are sort of 3 real life vehicles and then 2 others that are just sort of made up. Struggle to get it out. Oh, there we go. Cover off. So we've got another mission helicopter, and you can see, because this is, again, you've got the tail that folds out. Because this is an older version, this one's one that has the fold out rotors, and you can see, compare it to this one, the fact that the rotors are noticeably longer. But yeah, so it's done quite nice in this sort of, it says air rescue on the side, Matchbox police. It's nice that all the vehicles in this 5-pack are all in this sort of same livery. That's the police mission helicopter over there. And then we have the Chevy Camaro, Camaro Z28. They've done this as a police car in a number of different liveries. Again, Matchbox police, Unit 04 and police on the side. Nice big red bar light on the top. I quite like it when they do a separate bar light instead of, or light bar rather, instead of incorporating it as part of the window units. It stands out particularly well on that one with it being all blue. That's the Camaro police car. So this is an older version of the Chevy Blazer, although it's still not the original version that had the sort of more usual looking light bar on the top. It has got the same wheels as the original version, so this is a casting that's been going for quite some time, actually 1983. So it's actually, as I say, I referred to the GMC Wrecker earlier on as being one of the longest lived castings. Originally came out in 87 and obviously a version released in 2023. Well, this has obviously been going even longer, so 1983 and obviously a version released in 2023, so it's done very well. But yeah, another favourite casting of mine, another one that's done in sort of quite a number of liveries and looks really good in the blue and white. Unit 14, again, just Matchbox police on the side. It's kind of sad that they can't do sort of licensed police colours all the time, but some of the schemes do look really good, and it's quite a smart one with the blue with the white stripe. And then probably my favourite vehicle from this 5-pack, it's the Ford LTD police car. One of my favourite castings from the 80s. I've really liked American police cars for years. This is when this one first came out. I think this came out in 1987. In fact, does it say? Yeah, 1987 on the bottom there. It was one I wanted straight away. So the original one was in like a black and white scheme. But what really stood out for me at the time is the fact that they actually managed to do a red and blue light bar like a lot of American police cars have. I think practically every other toy police car I'd seen, it was always a one colour light bar, and as I say, usually matching whatever colour they'd done for the windows. So yeah, really, really favourite casting of mine, the Ford LTD. So nice to get that one, and obviously that was one that all these were kind of ones that were only available in this 5-pack. Then the last one, bit of an unusual one. I think it's just called command vehicle. This is a vehicle that started out way back in the early 80s as a mobile home, which I think is, although it was just called a mobile home, I think it kind of might be based on a real one. Kind of looks a bit like a sort of Winnebago type thing. Then it appeared as a NASA tracking vehicle. Then they sort of altered it slightly, turned it into an airport fire engine, and that's what this casting is. Now it says command center on the side, but I'm guessing with it still having this big sort of monitor on the top, it's more like a sort of water cannon for crowd control. So I think this is the only time it appeared in a kind of a police livery. Obviously, the others have all appeared in different police liveries over the years, but I think this is the only police version of this. So it's quite an unusual one, and again, obviously only available in the 5-pack. So that's the command vehicle. Let's move this package in. And then the last 5-pack I've got is another one from 1998. This is the fire one. Now, again, this is one that's got a bunch of decent sort of castings in, including 2 that are ones I particularly like. Oh, I've actually got sellotape on this one, which is a bit annoying. There we go. So this, another one of my all-time favourite castings, it's the utility truck. I think this is another one that came out in about 87, 89. And the first one that came out was in like a sort of grey and orange scheme. Another vehicle that immediately stood out in the catalogues, really liked it. At the time, I always remember thinking that with it having this kind of cherry picker type thing on the top with the buckets, it would have looked good as a fire engine. And thankfully, obviously, Matchbox have released it as one, although, as I say, it's only relatively recently I've managed to get hold of one. And again, I think this 5-pack might have been one that was only released in the States. It's actually a real vehicle, it's a Ford. Whether these are ever actually used by fire departments, I don't know. They're certainly used as obviously utility vehicles, what the vehicle is released at. But it looks really good in the fire department livery. Again, just generic Matchbox fire department. That's the Ford utility truck. Then we have the airport fire engine, airport fire truck. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is based on a real one. I'm not sure what it is, but it certainly looks plausible. Doesn't look made up. I'm fairly certain I've seen one that's very similar to this, but yeah, it's don't know which one exactly. So you've got the moving phone monitor, and you've got the extendable ladder. The ladder can often be missing from these in unboxed form, but it's nice that this one's obviously got it being boxed, and a nice eye-catching yellow livery with the red stripe. The airport fire truck. This next one, I think, just call it fire engine. This is one that, for some reason, I never really sort of cared for it that much. It's been around for a number of years. I mean, it's 1982 was when it first came out, but it's only kind of more recently I've had a kind of a new appreciation for it, as it's actually an Oshkosh, so it is actually a real vehicle. I think I always assumed it was one that Matchbox had made up. It's quite an unusual looking vehicle. It looks quite low. Quite a sort of big front overhang at the front, big windows and that. It's another one where the middle bit, the extending part of the ladder, can often be missing from an unboxed one. But yeah, so it's one I've kind of got a bit of a new appreciation for. So I kind of quite like it now. So that's as I say, Matchbox just call it the fire engine. Then we have another favourite casting of mine. It's the Mack auxiliary power truck. Another one that's been around for a while. It's 1991. And this is one that's got sort of fold up floodlights, then turn round, so obviously illuminate the sort of scene of an emergency. And although a lot of these vehicles are kind of, you've got a yellow and a red and a white one in this case, they have all got kind of a similar sort of livery on them, but very sort of basic markings. But yeah, this is another one. I'm trying to get as many examples of this casting as possible. That's the Matchbox utility truck. And then the last one is definitely my least favourite out of this. This is another long-lived casting. It's just called the Snorkel, 1981, I think that is. Yeah. This was a bit of a mishmash of various different castings. It started out as, because you can see it's got a very sort of British look to it, but the fact that it's got this open top section kind of makes it look kind of quite American. Matchbox in the sort of 60s and 70s did an AEC fire engine with a full roof on it, with just a normal ladder on the top. Then it was, I think, converted. There was a series they did in the late 70s, early 80s called Code Red, based around an American TV series. And they kind of customised this, but I don't think the series ever really sort of took off that well. The models, a few other models were released. I've got a couple of myself. But this would end up being produced. It's kind of like I say, a combination of about 3 different castings. There was a snorkel fire engine they did in the early 80s. Had like a bonneted cab, and I think that's a snorkel off this. So they've kind of, converted this casting. Now I did this on, and I don't know, it never really did it for me. I always thought open top fire engines look a bit odd anyway. So yeah, so that's the snorkel one. I think I've got a couple of these, but it's certainly not my favourite of the fire engines. So that's that. So that's all of the 5-packs I've got. But what I have got, actually, quite a recent purchase. This was actually one that's come off Vinted and cost me all of £2. And I must admit, when I saw it, it was one I'd never seen before. So it's from 1998. It's obviously a 3-pack, as you can see, and features 3 of my all-time favourite castings from like the 80s. So yeah, couldn't believe it when I came across it. You can see other ones they've done in the same series. This is this particular one: dirt mover, maintenance truck, Peterbilt cement truck. So yeah, really pleased with this one. So this one's obviously on a card. You can get it open. So this is the dirt mover. And this is a really old casting. I think it goes back to like the early 80s. Yeah, this was actually, I think it says, 1989, they altered the casting. Originally, it was a licensed vehicle that said Fawn on the front. Then, for some reason, they've done away with the badge. Later versions of this is a vehicle that's had quite a long life. Had not only different wheels, but they changed the dumper to plastic, which is not quite as good. But this is, thankfully, although it's not the licensed version anymore, this is one that's got the metal dumper. That's the dirt mover, as they're now calling it. Then another casting I really like, and one I weirdly never picked up when I was little. I don't know why I completely missed out. The Matchbox call it the highway maintenance truck, and at this point, it was still a licensed vehicle. It has actually got a Chevrolet badge. It is obviously based on a real vehicle. At some point, this is another casting that's still going strong now, but at some point, Matchbox decided to do away with the badge on the front, so it's no longer licensed, and they changed the name to Plowmaster. But this is back when it was just called the highway maintenance truck, and kind of quite a nice red livery. The blade is often missing off these unboxed. Obviously, it swivels from side to side. So that's that. Then the last one is the Peterbilt cement truck. The Matchbox obviously did quite a few vehicles on this chassis. They did a wrecker truck, dump truck, tanker, tractor unit, and obviously cement mixer. I've got one that's I thought this was the same as one I'd already got, but this one's actually got quite a nice metallic finish, whereas the other one I've got is just like plain red, and that one's also got like grey plastic, whereas this one, you can see, has got chrome. So it is actually a different version. Does tip up as well. So yeah, that's a nice one. I'm guessing it was unique to this sort of little 3-pack. That's the Peterbilt cement truck. There we go. So yeah, so I appreciate this video has probably gone a little longer than I kind of expected or kind of meant to. But yeah, it's good to kind of get all those unboxed. I appreciate, as I said at the start, it's a little bit of a different from what I've kind of been doing recently, sort of focusing on a lot of military stuff or sort of proper collectible diecast and that kind of thing. But as I say, I have genuinely really got back into my Matchbox over the last couple of years, so it is nice to kind of have a bit of break and kind of focus on this kind of stuff for a little bit as well. So I have got some more Matchbox stuff I'll be covering at some point, but probably next couple of videos I'll get back on to doing sort of more military stuff again and similar stuff like that. So thanks for sticking with me, if indeed you have. And yeah, in the meantime, please do like, share, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye.